Hello everyone. Today we are into week 5 of this course Metrics and Analytics of Marketing. We are diving into one of the most important topics, especially in the domain of marketing, that is on customer profitability. We will be looking into various metrics associated with customer profitability, and then we will also try to look into some of these frameworks that can be used to measure customer profitability. Then we will also try to have a better understanding about how the customer metrics can be associated with strategies. Basically, we are diving into the most powerful ideas in modern marketing and customer relationship management. This revolves around the fact that we have discussed even in some of our previous sessions that not all customers are created equal when it comes to profitability. So, let us get started with this session. We will start with this basic question, why customer profitability matters. Look at the pointers in this slide. The core message is simple but yet very profound. Not all customers are equally profitable. Some relationships actually lose money for the firm. So, sometimes you need to even fire some of the customers at the extreme cases if you understand that these customers are actually resulting in financial losses for your organization. So, as we move towards the subsequent slide in these sessions, we will try to look into it, how some of the customers are actually loss making for your organization. We have to understand the fact that many companies obsess over aggregate metrics. What is the total revenue? What is the total profit? While that is important to understand, but a clear granular level information is more important when it comes to policy making or aligning these results with the business strategies, right? But many of the companies miss the individual story. Understanding which customers drive profit is critical because it allows differential treatment like we discussed in our ABC framework analysis and smarter resource allocation. So, some of the questions that should be asked, that should be thought is, do we spend the same marketing amount on everyone, or should we actually spend the equal marketing effort or allocate equal budget for everyone? So, this is a bigger question, and most of the researchers, most of the practitioners today advocate that we do not need to spend equal amount on everyone. We cannot treat everyone equally because the amount of value that various customers bring to the business are different. Therefore, we are gradually, the marketing domain overall, gradually shifting the focus from how much revenue overall to what is the individual customer worth. If the customer is worth, then accordingly we will treat the customer. What you can do, you can think about your own business experience. Have you ever wondered why some companies extend professional or preferential treatment to some of the customers, but only provide the basic services to ordinary customers? The answer is very clear, right? Because some of the customers are more profitable, like we discussed in Pareto principle. 20% of our customers contribute 80% of our business value. That is why probably it is fair enough to treat this 20% of the customers to a bigger extent, right? So, this insight can transform the strategy from acquisition to retention to even firing the unprofitable customers in the business. And that is why understanding customer profitability has become one of the most important and core aspect of business analysis, right? First, let us look at what do we call customer profitability. In simple terms, it is the difference between the revenues earned from and the cost associated with the customer. So, when I say there will be two costs, one will be the cost of production, and another will be the indirect cost. For example, the cost associated with marketing, the cost associated with delivery, the cost associated with service. So, basically if I have to write it in the form of a formula, then profitability, customer profitability equal to revenue from the customer minus production cost minus customer relationship cost. So, customer relationship cost is a indirect cost. Right. So, we need to optimize this customer relationship cost. Basically, if we can optimize this customer relationship cost, it can directly impact the revenue. We do, as of now, we are considering that we do not have any control over the production cost, because the production department will look into it, right. So, basically as you can see in this one, as far as formula is concerned, the difference between the revenues from and the cost associated with the customer relationship during a specific period of time. Remember that it is, as it is a indirect cost, we always concentrate on the period of time, right. It is period specific, it most of the time it is annual, and but often we extend to lifetime value concept that we will touch later on. Simple equation that I have put here. So, this particular definition, this particular formula forces us to ask who really pays the bills around here. So, this is a basic but critical question in order to understand the overall profitability that can be derived from a customer. Now, we will try to look into the customer definition and counting. It is a very basic question, but it is trivial and it is critical question. Unless and until we have a proper definition for our customer, then in that case it will be very difficult for us to analyze the profitability associated with the customer, right. So, before we measure profitability, we must answer who is our customer, who is considered as our customer. This seems very obvious for all of us. It might seem obvious for all of us, but it is tricky. The definition must align with our business strategy. The definition must align with our buyer behavior, right. So, every company will position itself in a way that itself defines who should be the company's customer. The company never says that we are for everybody. So, the company probably will say that we are for common people. So, the common people itself has a definition, it has a defined boundary, right. So, in case of contractual settings, it is very straightforward. The account holder, contractual settings means basically, let us say I am subscribing to a telecom company, I am subscribing to a software. So, this is nothing but a contract. Let us say if it is a tele company, if I am a postpaid customer, then it is a 1 month contract. At the end of every month, I have to pay the required bill. So, this kind of setup is called the contractual setup. So, in case of contractual setup, it is very straightforward. I can easily identify who is my customer through the primary key. The primary key can be the customer ID, it can be the mobile number, it can be something else. But in case of non-contractual setting, it is not that straightforward as contractual setting. It can be a smart market, it can be a departmental store, it can be a restaurant, right. So, who decides? Who decides who are our customer? Because there is no straightforward primary key, though nowadays the companies are taking, let us say, phone number kind of parameter as primary key. Still it is not that straightforward as compared to a contractual setup. So, you should be critical when defining the customers and counting the customers. One thing is that avoid double counting. So, what is double counting? Let us say I am a customer who is who is purchasing or getting engaged with a brand called X. The brand X has a distribution, online distribution form, and at the same time they have offline stores as well. Now, I as a customer purchase some of the products of brand X from online store and some of the products from offline stores, or at some point of time I used to buy it from online stores and at some other point of time I used to buy it from offline stores. So, as a brand, because there are multiple transactions happening, transactions that are happening across channels, they should not consider me as two customers. I am the same customer. So, what they can do, what the brand can do, basically they can amalgamate their databases from various channels and then try to put it together, where let us say through a primary key like my phone number, they can consider me as one instance rather than multiple, right. So, the same thing can be extended to a family. If I consider the family as an entity of customers, a family buying from multiple store under one brand, count them once or separately. Typically, we need to count them once. Clarity here is very critical for management action, right. So, one definition rarely works for multiple purposes. Whether I am counting the customers in terms of household or I am counting the customers in terms of individuals, that is important, and consistency is important, right. So, let us say the sales might see the household as customers, but marketing might see the individuals as customers. Both are okay as long as it is consistent across the business, it is consistent across the let us say company, then it is okay. Otherwise, there will be problem in terms of evaluation, in terms of analysis of the customer profitability. So, one question that we can take along with this understanding is that in your organization or any company that you know, how is your customer defined? Is there a boundary? Is there a parameter? Are we defining customer in terms of household, or we are defining the customer in terms of individual, or there is any inconsistency? Does it cause any problem in analysis? So, you can just give a thought on this. Then next, consumer profitability, which is ranked by profitability. This particular, if you have a critical look at this particular topic, then it is eye opening for you. It is a classic decile analysis. Customers are divided into top 10 percentile, then next 10 percentile and so on up to the bottommost 10 percentile, right. So, if you can see here the top 10%, which belongs to the 100 million band, the profitability is 100 million from this top 10 percentile. The next 10 percentile, that is 10 to 20%, the profit is 50 million, 20 to 30%, the profit is 25 million and so on. The profit is getting reduced at every next 10 percentile, right. So, but if you have a critical look at this bottom 20 percentile, they are actually contributing negatively to the profitability. If you look at this 80 to 90 percentile, then this is they are causing a loss of 8 million, and if you look at the bottommost 10%, they are causing a loss of 20 million. So, you can think about a situation, let us say somehow, use as hypothetically think, if somehow we are able to eradicate this 20%, then in that case we will be 28 million better off in terms of our business value in terms of our profit. The less 20% destroy the 28 million in value, right. So, that is why it is important to identify this 20% as well. So, what do we do with this 20%? One option is that we can erode them, we can fire them, or we can extend them very less service, so that over a period of time they have only two options in hand, either they take an exit from the company or they upgrade themselves towards the top line, right. So, this particular scenario is called a well curve in marketing. What this well curve says is that cumulative profitability rises sharply with top customers and peaks at one point of time, but over a period of time it starts dropping as the loss makers pull it down, right. The top 20 to 30% often generate 150 to 300% of the profit, while the tail actually erodes the overall profitability. Now, when I said that top 20 to 30% contribute to 150 to let us say 300% of the profit, it is a contradiction with the Pareto principle that we discussed in one of our previous class. What the Pareto principle says is 20% of your customers will contribute to 80% of your business value. Now, here we are saying that 20 to 30% of our customers are contributing to let us say 150 to 300% of the total profit. Yes, there are differentiation of difference of opinion, but at the same time the direction is same, whether we talk in terms of Pareto principle or we talk in terms of the well curve. What it says is that less percentage of your customers are contributing to more percentage of your business value, right. Now, let us look at some of the metrics associated with customer profitability. The first metric that we will look into is the customer itself. The customers can be counted, as we see customer can be counted in terms of individual, customers can be counted in terms of let us say household, right. So, how should we count the customers? So, this is one of the metric. It is very basic in nature as I have explained, but it is essential. It helps us understand how many customers do we have. It can only be answered when we have a definition about who is our customer. So, first thing in the construction that you have to do is that you have to define the customer unit clearly and what counts as an active customer. That definition needs to be clarified, then only we can go for further analysis, right. So, what we need to avoid is avoid double counting across channels, as I have already said, and duplicate customer IDs. What is the purpose of this particular metric? It helps us tracking customer base size, what is the number of customers for our brand, and how effectively the firm attract the customers, right. So, this is all about the metric called customers. It is easy to understand, but it is critical at the same time. Unless and until you define it clearly, you will face difficulty while you are analyzing the customer profitability or taking a strategic decisions based on customer profitability. Next metric associated with customer profitability is recency. What is recency? We already have discussed about this RFM framework and we discussed about recency. We are reiterating that definition. The meaning of recency is that length of time since a customer's purchase last. Where is it most useful? In case of non-contractual setting. Why it is more important in case of non-contractual setting? Because in case of contractual setup, you know there are certain events, there are certain alarms which will tell you that a contractual customer is signing off. So, that news you will be getting. So, you have the scope for taking the intervention to win back the customers, but in case of non-contractual settings it is difficult. So, that is why recency is important. For example, one customer used to purchase after every 15 days. Now, I can see that the person has not purchased any product from our brand, let us say since last 90 days. So, what we can do is, like, if the purchase frequency is 15 days and the person has surpassed double of this 15 days, beyond 30 days, then we can try to get the customer engaged with the brand and we try to win back that customers, right. So, basically how we can use this recency matrix? We can track the recency distribution, let us say in 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90 or 90 plus, depending on the context and the type of business you are into. What we can do? We can estimate the active customers. If somebody is purchasing within 30 days, every 30 days, then he is a active customers. If somebody is not purchased, let us say since last 60 days, then in that case probably there is some problem. And probably if somebody has not purchased beyond 90 days, then in that case probably that is a lost customer. If somebody has not purchased for 70 days, maybe the customer is contemplating on switching the brand, right. So, what is the purpose of this particular metric? It spot the slipping customers early. In absence of this recency matrix, we will not be able to understand who are taking a transition from our brand. Let us say a customer going from 30-day to 90-day recency is at risk. So, what we need to do? We need to intervene with win back offers. Maybe a loyalty bonus if the customer is a loyal customer. Let us say we can also intervene on the onboarding if the customer has purchased just once, right. So, what you need to do? You need to track the distribution over time. Are more customers becoming recent or distant? These questions can be answered if we have a proper tab of this recency matrix. This matrix can actually predict the future revenue better than the raw counts. If recency matrix is in place, then probably we do not need, though the raw counts will give us an estimated revenue stream, but if the recency matrix is looked into in detail, then in that case we will have a better forecasting or better prediction. Now, this is about the retention rate, customers retention rate. So, by definition, by construction, it is the ratio of customers retained to the number at risk. Let us say I have a total base of 100 customers and I can see from the recency matrix that 30 customers have not purchased the product recently, they are probably at risk. Now, out of these 30 customers, through certain intervention, through certain extension of offers, I have retained 20 customers and only 10 customers switch to other brand. Then in that case, what will be this one? What will be my retention rate? Retention rate will be 20 divided by 30. Remember how many customers at risk have retained with our company divided by total number of customers at risk. Retention rate equal to retained customers divided by customers at risk, and we can also calculate another related matrix which is called a churn. So, churn is equal to, because 10 customers switch to other brands, 10 divided by 30, or in other way what we can say is churn is equal to 1 minus retention rate. There are some cautions we need to take while we are analyzing these metrics. Not the same as growth decline in customer counts, it focuses only on the existing customers, right. So, we are concentrating on the numbers rather than revenue stream when we are calculating the retention rate or churn rate. What is the purpose of this particular matrix, retention rate? It tracks changes in the firm's ability to retain customers over time. It signifies the what is the average lifespan of a customer with a particular brand, right. So, now let us look at this curve called the retention curve. So, what is this retention curve? As you can see, from the time of onboarding, from the time of this one introduction to the time of let us say exit, at different point of time how many customers are being retained with your brand. So, basically initially first year all the customers will retain with us, right. In the second year or second month itself we will be losing a lot of customers. If you look at this graph, you can see that during the initial period the downfall is very sharp, but over a period of time, let us say if you look at this one, if you look from month 5 onwards, then the curve becomes relatively flattened. So, what does it mean? It means that there is a higher chance that customers will switch to other brands in its relationship during the early stage with the brand. But as the relationship with the brand gets reinforced over a period of time, the customers tend to stay loyal with the brand, and that is why there is a sharp decline during the introduction phase or during the initial phase, but later on there is lesser decline. There will be some, there will be some declination, but not sharp declination, right. So, probably if the initial this one fall is very sharp, in that case probably there is a problem with onboarding the customers. You can take an intervention. Here in this diagram we can see that in the first month itself from 100 to it becomes 70. So, 30% decline in customers, only 70% customer is retained, right. So, there must be some problem with the onboarding. So, it is time for you to take certain initiative, so that during the onboarding itself, let us say new customer bonus, you extend some offers like new customers bonus, so that the customers tend to be more loyal. Similarly, if you can see that there are decline towards the end, then in that case there is a problem with the loyalty. Loyal customers are switching to other brands. So, in that case you can take an initiative like extending the loyalty incentives to your loyal customers, right. Now, looking at this reactivation strategy, how do you win back your lost customers or win back your customers at risk? Some of the churn is recoverable. If somebody has switched from your brand to another brand, your competing brand, then in that case at some of the situation it is quite possible to win them back through further engagement with the brand. Probably you can make a call to that customers, try to understand what happened, and then try to extend some offer to the customer. If the customer finds it lucrative, then in that case the customers will come back to you, come back to your brand. One thing, one important aspect is that win back must be measured and selective. Whenever we are trying to win back some customers, in that case also the calculation needs to be there, whether the customer belongs to top 10 profitable customers, top 20, or it belongs to let us say the tail side of the customer profitability matrix. If it belongs to the tail side, there is no point of trying to bring them back, right. Reactivation is only profitable when expected future value exceed the incentive cost. We will again try to calculate that what will be the expected value from this particular customer over its remaining lifespan. If it is worth the incentives, that if it is surpassing the incentive that we are extending in order to bring the customer back, then in that case it is worth it, otherwise it is not. What are the managerial uses of this customer matrix, such as the customers count, recency, retention rate, churn? So, what are the managerial uses of this matrix? First thing you can decide, first thing that you can understand, you can decide whom to acquire, who is your customer, whom you need to acquire, whom to keep with your business through certain incentives, or whom you should try to fire over a period of time, and who are the customers with whom you can try to grow your business. You have to align marketing and service to the value that is created. You always need to look, it should not be just a count that I have this base of customers. No, it should be something like this percentage, this particular customer or this particular segment of customers are generating this much of profit for my business. This matrix support the resource allocation and the profitability strategy as a whole. Once we have a good understanding about this matrix, then in that case what we can do, probably we can concentrate more on our profitable customers and less on our non-profitable or less profitable customers. So, it helps us in resource allocation as well as strategy made for profitability of the business. So, what we had been talking till now about categorization of customers depending on the profitability. So, if we look at the literal meaning of the context that we have discussed till now, we are actually talking about something called discrimination. We are trying to provide preferential treatment to valuable customers and probably the basic treatment to non-valuable customers. When differential treatment comes into picture, ethical consideration and legal cautions take place. We need to look into the legal aspects as well as some ethical considerations. Some of the ethical considerations in this context of treating customers differently, one is the anti-discrimination laws that affect the customer selection decisions. There can be anti-discrimination law. Then some of the utilities required by law to serve all customers equally. Irrespective of anything, you have to be indifferent with all the customers. So, if these kind of laws or belief system or values are there in the society, then you need to be cautious about it. Some of the legal cautions in this dimension is that data privacy regulations constrain what customer information can be collected. I mean, how much I have spent on grocery, it is my personal information. Whether it is legally allowed in your country to capture that data by the company or not is in question. So, if it is not allowed, then probably you cannot collect those data. Intrusive data gathering can damage the customer relationship. The moment I understand, the moment as a customer I see that my private data is being collected by the company, so I will probably develop some negative emotions about the company, right. Similarly, the legal aspect can be that there should be transparent policy about customer segmentation matter. If it is clear to everybody that this particular bonus is only for our loyal customers or something like that, and there is no regulatory hurdles to execute that scheme, then in that case it is quite okay, you can go ahead. We will look into a case called Harrah's Entertainment. So, this is a classic case of how customer profitability analysis helped this company to optimize the revenue stream and profitability stream. This is a US based company, they are basically into casino and hotel business. So, Harrah's Entertainment revolutionized the casino profitability through customer relationship management and data driven customer segmentation. they started focusing on lifetime value rather than the let us say transactional value, single transactional value. So, what it did? It implemented the total rewards loyalty program using the WinNet system. There is a system, they introduced a system through which they started implementing the rewards loyalty program, right. So, by predicting the customer's lifetime value and segmenting the players, as they are into casino industry, they segmented the players as gold players, platinum players and diamond tiers players based on the profitability of those customers. It shifted the focus from high rollers to undervalued low rollers, right. So, even low rollers were creating value, significant value for the organization. Another one is that cross market play. So, what was resulted is that cross market play grew from 13% to 23% after this customer relationship management and data driven customer segmentation was enacted in the system. Another result that can be reflected from these two initiatives is 14% increase in same store sales growth. And if we look at this profit per visit, it doubled in many areas and it increased to significant impact in other areas. When we talk in terms of return on investment, there was 72% internal rate of return on this IT investments and overall 62% increase in retention of customers. Even from the frequency point of view, even from the customer behavior point of view, the frequency of customers rose from 1.1 to 1.4 visits per month. So, the overall profitability, overall value of the organization was increasing from multiple aspects, from multiple metrics. So, this is what is the power of customer profitability analysis. This is what is the power of customer relationship management and data driven marketing. Thank you for your time and attention. I would like to conclude this session with a sentence that customer profitability reveals that not all the customers are equally valuable. Understanding the profitability of individual relationships enable firms to allocate resource effectively, protect their most valuable customers and optimize or exit unprofitable relationship. It is all about identifying your valuable customers and probably giving a gentle exit to your non-profitable customers. Thank you. I will see you in the next class.